Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out on this hot night and being with us. Hope you had a beautiful day. I'm excited that we're starting this new series tonight on Dr. Roger Thiel's book, This Life is Joy. This one of those books where just the title is enough to really sit with that and remember that truth. And it has a lot of powerful wisdom in it, and so I'm happy to share some of that with you tonight as we begin this series. I thought we could start by taking a look at what Unity says about joy, what is in the Revealing Word, our Unity Metaphysical Dictionary. It says joy is the happiness of God that's expressed in, well, it says in man, but I say in each one of us. I kind of update the language here for us. Joy and gladness are strength-giving, especially if the mind is fixed on things of the Spirit. So that's the key to joy, to living a life that's joy, is to keeping our mind centered on the things of Spirit, and then joy will strengthen us. It's all in how we're focusing our attention, right? And Charles Fillmore invites us to affirm, the joy of the Lord is my strength. Will you say that with me? The joy of the Lord is my strength. So the joy of the Lord in Unity, we know the Lord is the I am consciousness. We also call it the Christ consciousness, that is my strength. When we say it's not I, but the Christ within that does the work, we're talking about that higher power that is within each one of us. One of the opportunities that I have in ministry that I feel really blessed by is the opportunity to perform memorial services. And I did one a couple weeks ago for a really wonderful man. His name was Jim Lewis, and he worked for 40 years at NASA, a brilliant man, and he's also a veteran of the Marines. And he gave his sons, he had two sons, he gave his sons this advice. He said, you're meant to live a happy life, and if you're not feeling happiness in your life, then make some changes until you feel happiness again, because that's the purpose. And just that little advice, and that's enough to remind you, well, we're not here to just get stuck in the valley of the shadow. If you're there, we're meant to walk through that, right, and find our way and returning to joy and happiness. And we can do that by where we're focusing our consciousness, focusing on things of the Spirit. I was born into a family that had 3 children before me, and I was the baby, very, very much the youngest, 9 years younger than my brother, who was the third. And I discovered that one of the things that I got to do in that role as the youngest is entertain. That, right, I don't know if of you are the youngest, but that whenever I would sing or dance, my family got a real kick out of that. And it brought joy, and that gave me joy. And so there was just like this flow of joy. And my parents had a rocky marriage. They separated when I was almost 10. And so, but this opportunity to bring joy in this way always just sustained, and my mom was my greatest supporter throughout my life. And it was a way that I learned that joy, in that way, it was not necessarily meant to be a distraction, but really that it was the essence of life. It was when I felt the most alive, when I was having the opportunity to share my joy and to have others experience that joy with me. And really, this is like, the cream of the I say the cream of the crop, or like the tasty part of life. I don't know, the best of life, right? Is when we really get to feel that true joy. So I encourage you to pick up this book. We're not going to go through the whole book, and if you're inspired by it, pick it up, but you have no need to read it at all, and just come and experience the series, and we'll share the highlights with you that we discover, and Stacy and Reverend Shirley and Reverend, soon to be Reverend Stacy and Reverend Cindy as well will be part of this series for several weeks. We'll be doing it. So Roger Teel shares in this book that there are spiritual laws that we can know, and they're always operating when we're present to them and we're applying our attention, right, to them and activating those laws in our lives, that we can live with greater happiness and love and in our power. So this book begins with this affirmation: this instant is love. Say that with me. This instant is love. Very simple to remember. And he says, just knowing that, like we did in the meditation, just sitting with that, knowing it, you could repeat it as a mantra, that it opens your mind and heart to that awareness. And these spiritual practices, they're simple, and yet we forget to do them, right? We can remember to do that. That this is an affirmation of the highest truth, because we're talking about divine love, spiritual love. In 1 John 4:16, it says, God is love, and they that dwell in love dwell in God, and God in them. So what do we mean when we say love? When we say love, it's kind of a loaded word, isn't it? Because we have so many different definitions for that word. Roger Teel says, throughout our history, humankind has distorted and diminished the essence of divine love so completely that many have lost their comprehension of it. Because their comprehension of love is a very relative, finite understanding. So how did we get so confused about love? Well, we tend to think of love as romantic, right? Romantic, emotional, or sexual love are the kind of love that we frequently talk about. And when we limit love to this, then we believe we have to get it from someone else, right? Because all those seem to indicate that love is a commodity, something to get from outside of ourselves in order to have it, and it's something out there. So if something's out there, then we have to do something to earn it, right? To get it. So we work to meet the demands and the expectations of others, so we get their approval, their affection, and their praise. And that's the way that humans typically understand the exchange of love. Something that we get, something that we try to control or to use to our personal advantage. Roger Teel tells a story about this misguided understanding of love, about a teenager who shocked everybody in her life because one night she overdosed on sleeping pills. And this was completely unexpected because she was very popular, she was successful, she was a loving and obedient child. Her parents were shocked. And when she regained consciousness, she would only talk to the doctor at first about her reasons, and with her permission, the doctor went and spoke to her parents and shared with them this. She knew that you thought she was perfect, and she felt that she had to be what you thought she was. But that kind of love isn't enough. You can't exist as a reflection of someone else's needs or dreams. Oh, that's deep, isn't it? Our soul needs to live authentically. When we're living for trying to meet someone else's needs and expectations, and we're not in harmony with our own, then we're not experiencing unconditional love with ourselves and others. That's very conditional, isn't it? Well, the true nature of the divine is unconditional love, and it can be something that we may not understand really fully, because it's so much beyond what human relationships tend to be. It's not based on anything you do or how you look, and it's very experiential, isn't it? That experience of the fullness of divine love. Your rational mind truly can't comprehend the expansiveness of it. It is what we know as the ultimate and only reality is love. A Course in Miracles talks a lot about that as our true reality. There's a story of an acclaimed professor who saw two doors. The first one led directly to love, and the second one led to a lecture that was being given about love. And between the two choices, the professor very promptly went in the door on the lecture and sat in and heard the lecture about love. Isn't that interesting? We need to let go of the idea that God's love is somewhere out there, and we need to reach out for it and try to draw it into ourselves in some way. That's our greatest error. Love is the reality and the beingness of this very moment, and it includes everything that you can see, you can touch, you can understand, everything you can comprehend. It's all people, all sentient beings, the earth itself, the entire cosmos, and yet it's even more than that. It's just everything, right? It's what we call the kingdom of heaven, this unconditional spiritual love. Charles Fillmore says this about love, about our inner experience of love. He says, love is an inner quality that sees good everywhere and in everybody. So when you are in that consciousness of love is when you're seeing good in everything and in everybody. You're having right vision or right seeing. It insists that all is good, and it refuses to see anything but good. It causes that quality finally to appear utmost in itself and in all things. So he's sharing with us that this is a causative spiritual law, that when we choose to live in love and see the good and call it forth and continue to look for it and see it and call it forth, that we will experience it and it will be brought to our attention and our vision. When we're in touch with that inner quality of love, we know that we can then become a messenger, an instrument of that love in the world. Charles Fillmore says, if we would draw to us love, we must be love, be loving and be kind. So that is another way we can understand what we call the law of attraction, that as we are, so we will draw into our own life and experience. So there's a challenge with being open and vulnerable with love all the time, that vulnerability, that we can share our love and light with the world is not always well received. And people can misinterpret, people get hurt, we can get hurt, and when we get hurt, it can wound us very deeply and make us not want to open up again. We can forget that when we experience that wounding, that we can apply that healing balm of divine love to that is unlimited, and we open up to that. What happens often is that when we're hurt, when someone doesn't return our affections, that we can go into, well, I don't care, right? I don't care, who needs that person, right? Yeah, whatever. We can get into judging them. Oh, well, they must be this kind of a person to not love me. I'm putting it out there, and they have an attitude, or you can get irritable, you can get reactive, right? When people are not responding to what you feel is your vulnerable, open, loving, light self. And we can wall off our hearts and become closed. And when this happens, we lose sight of our true essence, our true nature. I love this quote from C.S. Lewis, who explains love and this vulnerability that we can have around love in this way. To love at all is to be vulnerable. Love and your heart will certainly be wrung and possibly be broken. If you want to make sure of keeping it intact, You must give your heart to no one, not even to an animal. Wrap it carefully round with hobbies and little luxuries. Avoid all entanglements. Lock it safe in the casket or coffin of your selfishness. But in that casket, safe, dark, motionless, airless, it will change. It will not be broken. It will become unbreakable, impenetrable, irredeemable. To love is to be vulnerable. So as we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and share our authentic self with the world, what is it, in alignment with our soul, who we are, and how we share that light. And we most naturally share that gift of love and service in finding ways to serve others. And if you would like to find a way to serve at Unity, we would love to support you in finding that, because you'll find that opens up those walled up spaces, because you'll feel so good about giving of yourself in that way. It is not just free labor for the church. It really isn't. It is, but it's not. That's not how we think of it. We think of it that it is a way that we receive by giving, because you really do receive that love and good feeling and blessings from doing that. So we practice this instant is love by opening our heart, knowing that truth. I invite you to remember that little phrase, this instant is love, throughout the week. Put it in your phone. You could put a notification, have it show up every hour or as often as is really going to support you, to help you to remember that truth. And find a way to serve others and to give back, to care. Service moves us into that consciousness of love like nothing else. Thank you for being here tonight. Namaste.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.